Guys, and in this video covering the OCR A2 psychology specification, the options of applied psychology paper, and the health option. In this video we're going to talk about definitions of dysfunctional behaviour, and the key study we need for this is Rosenhan and Seligman, 1995. But before I get into that, there's a few precursors I want to mention. I always say, just kind of generically now, that anyone who doesn't like these videos, just hang in there. There's more different stuff coming in the future, I promise. I know I've been saying that for a long time, but there really is. I'm on a six-week holiday at the end of this week, so I'll be doing loads of things. No doubt buying some products, making some designs, so there'll be loads of tech stuff coming up. But this is for the OCR A2 psychology specification, and anyone who's slightly interested in psychology and just wants to listen along. So that's okay. The other precursor I always mention is, when I do the health videos, is we're doing the forensic and the sport option, because we're not doing the health option. I've decided I want to do the health option on my own, so therefore there may be things that I've learnt or there may be things that I haven't learnt that you need to know, or vice versa. So if you're using these videos, if you are doing the specification and you're using these videos to revise a couple of months down the line, please take these videos with a grain of salt. By all means, use them as a revision material, but take them with a grain of salt. So let's try and define abnormal behaviour, and we're going to use some psychological research to try and do that. But just think for a second about just how difficult it is to define abnormality. What's normal changes according to culture and a whole ton of other factors. So this study attempts to or this piece of research attempts to do that. Now, I do want to mention that this isn't a piece of experimental research. There's no independent variable, dependent variable. It's just a collection of definitions that they came up with in a paper as to what constitutes abnormal behaviour. So we'll talk about some evaluation points as we go through each one, but that's essentially what we're going to do. So let us start with the first one, and as always, I look over at my notes. Okay, so the first one we have is statistical infrequency. Now, this is pretty obvious. If a behaviour doesn't occur very often in a particular culture, then it is to be considered abnormal in that culture, and that's something called the normal curve. It's basically saying that behaviours that we see a lot of the time are what we should consider normal behaviours, and everything else we should consider an abnormal behaviour. So pretty simple there. There's obvious issues with that though, isn't there? If you the example I've got in my notes is, if you think about someone with, if you think about IQ, intelligence quotient, it's a way of measuring intelligence, and most people have an IQ sort of between 80 and 100. So if you have an IQ of, for example, 150, that in this context makes your behaviour dysfunctional. But I'm sure a lot of people would like to have a high IQ, so that's all in it there. If you have an high IQ, it doesn't mean you're a dysfunctional person. So that's a limitation there. And each of these definitions in and of themselves, they're all very reductionist. They all suffer from the same issues, really. So you have to kind of take them as a whole package. And remember, there's no experimental research here. So there's no IV, there's no DV, there's no control variables, nothing like that. This isn't a practical study. It's just a list of theoretical definitions that they came up with. So we've got number 1, statistical abnormality. Number 2 is deviation from social norms. So it's the idea that if society doesn't agree with a certain behaviour, then it should be considered abnormal or a dysfunctional behaviour. Obviously, as we said, each of these definitions on their own, nobody would argue that these aren't reductionist. But deviation from social norms is a bit more, has a bit more sort of credence and, I don't know, substance to it, if you like, than just statistical infrequency, because just because we don't see something very often doesn't mean it's not good or doesn't mean it's bad. But deviation from social norms, if we don't accept something as normal, then I think it should probably be classed as dysfunctional. So I probably agree with that one, just on a personal level. So we've got statistical infrequency, deviation from social norms. The next one is failure to function adequately. Now, this one's pretty interesting because obviously if you're covering yourself in your own excrement every day and you're not getting up and you're not doing any of those things, you're not functioning, then clearly that behaviour is dysfunctional. Just looking at the word itself, I think that's probably the most important one. Dysfunctional means not functional. So if you're failing to function in an adequate way to what you want to function or what you need to function, then that should be classified as dysfunctional behaviour. Now, I'm just going to see if I've got any more notes on that one. So, yeah, I have. So they split this down into several
it's 16 hours.
Ideas about what's not functioning adequately. the first one is anything that causes you personal distress. So obviously if it's distressing you, then you're not functioning properly. Anything that causes the observer's distress. Now that is pretty interesting because that sort of takes into account social factors and other people around you, which is sort of ingrown in everything we do. Unpredictable behaviour and irrational behaviour. So if you can never predict what you're going to do, or someone else can never predict what you're going to do, and if you don't have a reason for it, then you could argue that stops you from being able to function because you don't know where you are sort of from day to day. So next, this is pretty interesting. Now this is sort of a sub-study in itself. That we're gonna talk about. I'm just gonna get my other notes. But Rosenhan and Siegelman included this in their paper, and but what it essentially is a study by Joe Hardo, Jardo, Joe Hardo, 1958, so it's a little bit older than their study. But instead of looking at it as okay, what's dysfunctional, he looked at it as he or she, I don't know. They looked at it as what makes an optimal life, and anything other than that must be dysfunctional. They Rosenhan and Siegman basically looked at what is dysfunctional behaviour, but they looked at what is optimal living, and sort of said anything other than that must be dysfunctional, because it's not what you'd want, so why would you settle for that? And they came up with 6 ideas about what that is. This is just a little, I don't know. So there's a positive view of yourself. To live optimally, you need to believe in yourself. You need to have a positive view of yourself. So that was number 1. Positive growth and self-actualization. So it's the idea that you grow properly, and you have an accurate view of reality, an accurate view of what is actually possible, and that's a problem in sort of borderline personality disorder, and lots of the disorders actually they have a distorted view of what possible. So positive view of yourself and the ability to grow and develop personally, but also the ability to to have control basically, and to distinguish between what's real and what's not. The next, autonomy, the ability to act independently. So to function, you need to be able to make simple decisions on your own and act independently. Have some ownership of what you do, basically. 5, you need to be able to maintain positive relationships. So everybody needs other people. That's what that idea is about. So you need to be able to maintain those and keep them healthy and positive. Then last but not least, you have to have a mastery of your own environment. So you have to be in control and be able to adapt to changing circumstances at a reasonable level. And changing circumstances can be the simplest things. So the idea is you're not rigid. You can adapt, at least to a certain extent. So those are Rosenhan and Siegman, 1995. Their definitions of dysfunctional behaviour. And the last one is Jardin, 1958's definition of what is optimal living, and the six constructs that are made up with that. So let's go through the headings again. We've got statistical infrequency, deviation from social norms, which, as I've said, I think is one of the most important ones. We've got failure to function adequately, and we've got deviation from ideal mental health, and that's Jardin 1958, which we've just been through, so I won't go through those again. Anyway, that's that dysfunctional behaviour definitions. I do want to highlight quickly that this is not the same as categorisation of dysfunctional behaviour. They're two separate areas on the syllabus, so we'll do a future video on that. And yeah. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. And my website address is down below, tom-rogers.com. There's gonna be a lot going on over there over the next few weeks. By the end of this week and into the next 2 weeks. So definitely watch out for that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.